Stacey Dash is a face you might recognize from the hit film Clueless. She managed to make her career crash and burn in a fashion that is almost impressive. Dash starred as the sassy, fashionable best friend to Cher in the 1995 film and was well loved by fans of the film. She did a great performance. That is her most notable role, but she had many other film and TV credits around this time. Some highlights from the fall of Stacey Dash include her saying that Black History Month shouldn't be a thing and that transgender people should go to the washroom in bushes in 2016, referring to other actors inappropriately when they try and speak up against racial injustices. That just happens randomly. She also claimed feminism is ruining men. She kind of blacklisted herself with every action she has committed in recent years. Though she has apologized for things she has said and done in the past, she is still not getting much work in Hollywood. Rebecca Ferguson has just given a killer performance in the second Dune film, and while on the press tour, she might have also killed another actor's career if she had revealed their name. Rebecca Ferguson is one of the internet's favorite actresses right now for good reasons. She seems very grounded, smart, sweet, and just is a really good actress. So when she dropped in a recent interview that she had once been screamed at on set by an unnamed former co-star, people were quick to start combing through her films in search of the culprit. People were taking this very seriously, as Rebecca also said the encounter made her cry. The leading theory is that it was Hugh Grant that had screamed at her. People would back this theory up online with past stories from his co-stars and people who worked on set with him about how he was rude and difficult. That actually caused him to not get fully blacklisted when he was younger, but it did make him lose out on a couple roles. He did claim that the movie Did You Hear About the Morgans caused opportunities to dry up for him, claiming that Hollywood gave me up because I made such a massive turkey with that film with Sarah Jessica Parker. Whether I wanted to or not after that, the days of being a very well-paid leading man were suddenly gone overnight. It's unclear if he was the one who yelled at Ferguson, but he did for sure yell at a woman while working on the set of the movie Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. Star of the 1930s, Mae West was an absolute bombshell of the era. She was known for her suggestive performances and outfits and overall bold depictions of being a woman and the female body. She was blacklisted by a pretty unexpected co-star, the Production Code Administration, or PCA. The PCA was created to censor media to uphold strict moral guidelines. It was the 30s after all. It was used to adjust American media, and that is where Mae West operated, due to her performances always having a hint of something they shouldn't. According to the PCA, many of them were censored. She was censored so many times that it was easier for a studio to just not hire the star in the first place. She was actually temporarily banned from the screen at one point. She did find a few roles through the 1940s, but from 1943 to 1960, there was little work for her on screen. It was the 1960s and 70s that took her off that blacklist again, and she made a few more films before passing in 1980. Thora Birch made a name for herself in the 1993 film Hocus Pocus as young Dani Dennison. She then began starring in various TV shows and movies and even on Broadway. But it was a 2010 Broadway contract that would cause her to lose everything. While working on the 2010 off-Broadway revival of Dracula, Birch's father allegedly threatened a castmate with physical harm, and it resulted in her being fired and not rehired for a while. The actor that was threatened remains unnamed to this day, but allegedly was involved in a scene with Birch in which he was directed to rub her back. According to Birch's father, Birch was uncomfortable with this, and the threat was meant to convey that. The director did not agree with the father's behavior, and Birch was of course fired. This isn't the only reason why Birch rarely worked though. According to the American Beauty star, she spent some time in her youth upset and upsetting others intentionally. Vanessa Marquez was known for various film credits, but most of her fame came from the TV show ER, in which Marquez starred alongside George Clooney. Marquez would actually go on to accuse Clooney of having a hand in blacklisting Vanessa from ER and Hollywood in general. Vanessa was in the TV show for 3 seasons before being let go and written off. It was unclear why, but Vanessa soon shared that George Clooney and other actors on the show had acted inappropriately towards her on the TV show set. Not saying that Clooney was the one doing it, she just named him and said that she experienced bad behavior every day while working on the show. Vanessa says she complained to someone about the on-set inappropriate actions and claims that that was the reason why she was taken off the show. So she said she was fired for complaining. George Clooney has directly acknowledged the accusations. In 2017, he said he had nothing to do with Vanessa being blacklisted and that he actually didn't even realize she was. Linda Fiorentino was at the beginning of her Hollywood journey and things looked promising. She had a considerable amount of credits in the 90s and early 2000s, including a role in the Men in Black movies. But now she has seemed to disappear and be considered a former actress. The reason for this sudden change might have had something to do with Dogma star Kevin Smith, who also wrote and directed that film. Smith went on record and destroyed Linda's reputation. She had been labeled difficult to work with, among other Things. Nowadays, many people actually disagree with these claims and consider her to have been very hardworking and talented. At the time though, she just didn't have enough star power to come back from the claims set against her. Charlie Sheen was once on top of the world, even reported to have been paid just under $2 million per episode while starring in the show 2.5 Men, but he soon was blacklisted and pushed out of Hollywood, partly because of his own actions, but also former co-star and ex-wife Denise Richards accused Sheen of bad behavior, and that only added more reason to keep the man out of the game. In the year 2000, Denise Richards and Charlie Sheen met on the set of Good Advice and then began a serious relationship the next year after Richards guest starred on Spin City. The pair would end up getting married and having 2 kids. But a few years later, in early 2006, Richards ended up filing for divorce, and a few months after that, taking out a restraining order against her former husband. The order required Sheen to stay 300 yards away from Richards, and he could only see their children if he was supervised. The reason Richards felt she needed the order was because she claimed that Sheen had spoken violently towards her and was rough with her physically. Sheen would later go on to be accused of similar things by other women he went on to date and marry. The actor did other things all by himself though that ended up getting him blacklisted. He used substances that are not legal and would behave poorly on sets and more. The actor had said in 2018 that he is trying to turn things around. Kevin Spacey is mainly known for his starring role on the TV show House of Cards, but like a real House of Cards, once the public caught wind of past actions, everything came crashing down. 2017 was the year of Spacey's fall from grace. Anthony Rapp, who you might recognize from the movie Rent or the TV series Star Trek Discovery, accused Spacey of acting inappropriately towards him when he was underage. The incident would have happened a few decades before 2017. Spacey was of course fired from the show House of Cards very soon after the news was released, and the show continued on for one more season without him. Rapp was not the only actor that accused Spacey of the inappropriate behavior. Soon more actors were coming forward with stories, and Spacey went to court. He was ultimately found not guilty, but the damage to his career had already been done and the actor was blacklisted. Sandra Locke was a big star in the late 60s, early 70s, and just didn't act but also directed too. She starred in films alongside Clint Eastwood, and the pair really hit it off, dating for quite a while. They were the it couple, starring in films like The Outlaw Josie Wales and Every Which Way But Loose. Unfortunately, the pair eventually broke up, and it was disastrous for Locke's career. They broke up in 1989, but it kind of dragged on for a few years. Eastwood had more overall star power and connections to major Hollywood elites than Locke did, or even if they were both connected to someone, it's assumed that the person would then take Eastwood's side instead of hers. Soon, Locke wasn't getting much work and was essentially blacklisted from Hollywood. While it has never been confirmed technically, many people, including Locke, believe that her blacklisting was because of Eastwood, that he used his power and connections to effectively end her career, because after the breakup, her working life went up in flames and his was completely fine. Isaiah Washington had all the potential to make it big. He was starring in a main role on an incredibly popular TV show, Dr. Preston Burke on Grey's Anatomy. He had a number of film credits under his belt before that and was just an all-around good guy, until he threw it all away. According to the book by Lynette Rice, How to Save a Life, The Inside Story of Grey's Anatomy, a fight between Washington and McDreamy, or Patrick Dempsey, broke out on set and caused the domino effect that led to Washington's firing and blacklisting from Hollywood. According to interviews in the book, one of the men was late to set one day, so the next day the other decided to get payback and be late instead. Tensions got high and soon the two men were brawling in studio. Washington apparently pushed Dempsey up against a wall and began shouting in his face, and it wasn't until Washington brought the F word that is bad, that is used to describe gay people, that everything stopped. The word was used in context of another actor in the show who was known to be gay, so really bad. Washington ended up apologizing, but then used the word again at the Golden Globes, and like very publicly in an interview, and that was kind of the moment that cemented everything. He was gone. Other Grey's Anatomy actors condemned his behavior, and soon Washington wasn't seen much in popular media anymore.
Let's start off with Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep and Dustin Hoffman play feuding exes in Kramer vs. Kramer, which seems similar to their off-screen dynamic. When Meryl first heard about the film, she was mourning the death of her boyfriend, fellow actor John Cazale, who died in 1978. Now, according to a 2016 book about her life, Her Again, Becoming Meryl Streep, Dustin slapped Meryl across the face, taunted her about the recent death of John, and even shattered a wine glass next to her without telling her. He was goading her and provoking her, said producer Richard Fishkoff, using stuff that he knew about her personal life and about John to get the response he thought she should be giving in the performance. Now Meryl told the New York Times, "It was my first take in my first movie and he just slapped me. It was overstepping." Now that wasn't the only time that he allegedly mistreated her during this time. She also claims that he touched her on one occasion, threw a wine glass against a wall near her head, and raised his voice and criticized her. Up next is Julia Roberts. In a 1993 interview with the New York Times that took place during filming I Love Trouble, lead actress Julia Roberts described her relationship with Nick Nolte, saying that while he can be completely charming and very nice, he also is completely disgusting. "He's gonna hate me for saying this, but he seems to go out of his way to repel people." Nick then responded by saying, "It's not nice to call someone disgusting, but she's not a nice person. Everyone knows that." Now things were so bad that it was reported that they acted more with stand-ins than they did with each other. Their relationship has seemingly not progressed since, as they still appear to hold animosity towards each other today. Then there's Casey Wilson. In an interview of her podcast, Casey Wilson accused Tim Allen of being so effing rude when she guest starred on The Santa Clauses, his Disney Plus spin-off of the Santa Claus movies. Tim Allen was such a B, the actor said, while recalling shooting a scene in which Tim, playing Santa, enters her character's home and she confuses him for an intruder. He goes over to the producer, who is standing 4 feet from me, and goes, "And I heard him. He goes, 'You gotta tell her to stop stepping on my lines,'" she said. The producer then turns to me with horror on his face and has to walk 1 foot to me, and he goes, "Tim would ask that you stop stepping on his lines." Casey said that everybody was walking on eggshells, people just looked frantic, and when he was done, he was so effing rude. He never made eye contact, never said anything. It was so uncomfortable. Now after they finished filming, she remembered Allen announcing that he was leaving before dropping his Santa coat on the floor and walking out. Let's talk about Janet Hubert. In 2020, Will Smith admitted to making the set very difficult for his Fresh Prince of Bel-Air co-star Janet Hubert. During a one-off reunion on HBO Max, Janet, who played the original Aunt Viv and left the series in 1993, reconciled with Will after a 27-year-long feud, telling him she felt like he banished her. Will then acknowledged making things hard for her, stating he felt like everything was a threat to him when he was on the show. "I can see now the level of pain and the level of struggle that it was just for you to show up every day," he said. To which Janet responded, "But you took all that away from me with your words. Words can kill. I lost everything, reputation, everything. And I understand you were able to move forward, but you know those words, calling a black woman difficult in Hollywood, is the kiss of death." Then there's Alex Pettyfer. While they played friends in Magic Mike, Channing Tatum and Alex Pettyfer were not so close in real life. "Channing Tatum does not like me, for many reasons, many being my own fault," Alex said in a 2015 interview on Bret Easton Ellis's podcast. According to Alex, tensions began because he was very insecure as a human being during filming and decided to keep to himself off set. "That gave me a bad rep because they said, oh, Alex thinks he's effing better than everybody else because he doesn't speak to anyone." Now their relationship allegedly only worsened when Alex rented an apartment from a friend of Channing's and moved out before paying the 4 months back of rent he owed. Now currently Channing has never publicly responded to Alex's comments. Moving on to Nicolette Sheridan. Desperate Housewives actor Nicolette Sheridan once went as far to call her co-star Terry Hatcher the meanest woman in the world, according to the show's writer Mark Cherry. Now there is speculation that Nicolette wasn't the only star who didn't get on with Terry. In 2018, Felicity Huffman posted a tribute to the show online, complete with personalized messages for each of her former co-stars, with the exception of one person only, Terry. That same year, Eva Longoria appeared on Jimmy Kimmel Live and claimed that the stars were all still very good friends, before correcting herself with 99% of us are. Now after the finale aired and amid widespread rumors about the feud, Terry said to TV Guide, "I will never disclose the true and complicated journey of us all, but I wish everyone on the show well." Then there's George Takei. Despite being 2 of the 4 surviving cast members of the original Star Trek series, William Shatner and George Takei are still feuding. George previously told the New York Times that William was not a team player on set. He said the rest of the cast all understand what makes a scene work, it's everybody contributing to it, but Bill is a wonderful actor and he knows it, and he likes to have the camera on him all the time. Then after George mocked William's trip to space, William retaliated by telling Page 6, "There's a psychosis there must be something else inside George that is festering, and to make makes him unhappy that he takes it out on me. Why would he go out of his way to denigrate me? It's sad, I feel nothing but pity for him. Now we have The Rock. Now The Rock joined the Fast and Furious during the franchise's 5th film, and there was no reason to expect drama. But over the course of the next 3 movies though, The Rock overstayed his welcome. He and co-stars Tyrese and Vin Diesel exchanged a number of passive-aggressive Instagram posts. The feud between the two actors erupted during filming The Fate of the Furious in 2017, when The Rock took to social media to slam some unnamed co-stars. Some conduct themselves as stand-up men and true professionals, while others don't. When you watch this movie next April and it seems like I'm not acting in some of these scenes and my blood is legit boiling, you're right, he said. Then in another Instagram post to celebrate the wrap of the film, The Rock thanked nearly everyone in the cast and crew, but made no mention of Vin Diesel, the film's co-producer. Up next is Joan Crawford and Bette Davis. When Joan Crawford died, Bette Davis coldly stated, "Joan Crawford is dead, good." Now, the pair were huge stars in the 30s, 40s, and 50s who just so happened to despise each other. Now, there were many reasons for their rivalry, including jealousy over a man and many attempts to undermine each other's careers. Now, despite their decades-long feud, they signed on to co-star in 1962's Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. Now, this might not have been the best idea though. While shooting a scene where Betty's character beats Joan's, Betty was reported to have hit Joan so hard that she needed stitches. Later, it was said that Joan got revenge by wearing a wrestler's belt in a scene where Betty, who had back problems, was supposed to drag her across the floor. Now, the feud went on for years after that, and it was so well known that their story was made into a TV show. Then the release of Betty's film Ex-Lady was overshadowed by news of Jones's divorce, and tossed in a love triangle involving another actor, professional grievances, public and private jabs, and this was a rivalry that lasted until Joan's death. And lastly, we have Aaron Spelling. Shannon Doherty was cast in 2 of Aaron Spelling's hit teen series, Beverly Hills 90210 and Charmed. Unfortunately though, she started to be a diva and be difficult and demanding, so she was eventually kicked off both shows. Now, her exit from Charmed was so bad that Aaron is said to have banned her from all future projects, and her diva reputation has seemed to keep her out of anything worth watching ever since. According to her former Beverly Hills 90210 castmate Justin Priestley, Shannon could be a nightmare. In his 2014 memoir, he claimed her arrogance was beyond the pale during the trip to New York. She apparently had issues with the car that had picked her up and took her to the airport, asking a Fox publicist, "Really, a town car? You sent a town car to take me to the airport, not a limo." Now, according to her book, Deep Thoughts from a Hollywood Blonde, co-star Jenny Garth got along with Shannon like gasoline in a match. At one point, Jenny was allegedly so fed up with Shannon's bad attitude that she lost her cool and yelled, "Come on, B, we're taking this outside." Now, fortunately, other cast members were able to break up the fight before it turned physical. Then producer and writer Larry Mullen told Entertainment Weekly that Shannon didn't ask permission before getting a haircut, so her brand new do wound up destroying the continuity of the season 4 finale. Allegedly, that's what inspired fed up producers to finally kick her off. Starting off, we have Rebel Wilson. Now, there's a lot of drama going on due to Rebel Wilson releasing a memoir, and it has shown us some insight into the actress's life. Rebel has revealed that her Grimsby co-star Sacha Baron Cohen is the previously unnamed Hollywood a-hole that is allegedly attempting to stop her writing about him in her upcoming memoir. He's hired a crisis PR manager and lawyers. He is trying to stop press coming out about my book, but the book will come out and you will all know the truth. I will not be bullied or silenced by high-priced lawyers or PR crisis managers, she said. Now, the a-hole I am talking about in one chapter in my book is Sacha Baron Cohen. Now, she went into more details saying that there were some incidents on set. She also claimed that when she was asked to do reshoots, including for a sex scene, which made her feel uncomfortable on set. "I filmed the scene after demanding rewrites, but I still had to simulate having sex with this guy. I still had to kiss him repeatedly," noted Wilson. She then told producers that she would not be doing any promotion for the film, and Rebel added, "The movie bombed, which to me was karma enough." Now there's Lola Gondini. Everyone made fun of Amber Heard about her issues with Johnny Depp, but Lola Gondini had a very similar incident while on set with him. They were on the set of the movie Blow in 2001 when the incident happened. On the Powerful Truth Angels podcast, Lola said that director Ted Demme instructed her to burst out laughing in a scene where Johnny gives a monologue. But she didn't know that Ted didn't tell Johnny about this. Johnny Depp, when they say cut, walks over to me, comes up to me, sticks his finger in my face and goes, "Who the F do you think you are? Who the F do you think you are? Shut the F up," Lola said. "I'm out here and I'm trying to effing say my lines and you're effing pulling focus focus, you effing idiot. Now she said on the podcast that this was her first day on set and the first time she met Depp. This was my first studio movie, I've just done indies until then, and I have the star who I have idolized, who I am excited to work with, ream me in my face. The only thing going through my head was don't cry. Next up is Tina Fey. In September 2023, Rolling Stone published an expose about the allegedly toxic work environment on the set of The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon. Former employees claim that Jimmy Fallon dropped his happy and kind persona behind the scenes and was prone to suddenly becoming snappish and ill-tempered. Now, writers for the show also said that they received deflating feedback from Jimmy as well. Now, the Rolling Stone piece inspired Twitter users to start digging up old dirt on Fallon. New Yorker archivist Aaron Overbay's contribution was an expert from Tina Fey's memoir Bossy Pants. In it, Fey recalls how Amy Poehler immediately let Fallon know that she was not going to kowtow him just because she was the new kid in the Saturday Night Live writer's room. Poehler was ready to let her raunch flag fly upon her arrival, but apparently one of the newbie's crass jokes offended Fallon. He turned to her in a faux squeamish voice and said, "Stop that, it's not cute, I don't like it," Fey wrote. Amy dropped what she was doing, went black in the eyes for a second, and wheeled around on him. "I don't effing care if you like it." Now, Poehler seemed offended that Fallon was expecting cute comedy from the comedian. However, it seems that Poehler was able to get over her seemingly annoyance with Fallon's prudishness after she exerted her dominance, and Fey claimed that their relationship was amicable overall. On to Nikki de Jager. Nikki Tutorials, also known as Nikki de Jager, is a Dutch makeup artist and a beauty vlogger. Now, after she came out as transgender to her 13 million subscribers on YouTube, she was invited to Ellen DeGeneres' show. Now, as we all know, Ellen isn't exactly how she portrays to be. Nikki said that the friendly, welcoming atmosphere you see when watching Ellen isn't the reality in the studio. She suggested that Ellen was cold and distant when the cameras were turned off, and that Ellen didn't even say hello to her. She also said when she arrived, she was greeted by an angry intern who was a bit overworked, and that in her words, "I expected a Disney show, but I got a Teletubbies After Dark." Nikki added that she didn't receive the same VIP treatment as other celebrity guests, saying every guest at Ellen had a private toilet, but she didn't, and she couldn't even use the closest toilet to her because it was reserved for the Jonas Brothers. Now, after she revealed this, Nikki's fans who watched the interview said they were inclined to believe the YouTuber. "You can tell in the interview that she was so disappointed about Ellen, like it breaks my heart," a YouTube commenter wrote. "I believe her. Ellen just seems odd to me in a way I can't quite explain. Her TV persona seems very fabricated," another added. Now let's talk about Lucy Liu. Bill Murray and Lucy Liu worked on Charlie's Angels together, and in a 2021 podcast interview, Lucy claimed that Bill lashed out at her while they were rehearsing a scene together for Charlie's Angels. Now, Bill was reportedly frustrated with changes made to a scene in his absence from a previous rehearsal. Lucy then said Bill's comments were inexcusable and unacceptable. It said that he even stopped a scene in progress and pointed to Drew Barrymore, Cameron Diaz, and Lucy Liu, saying in order, "I get why you're here and you've got talent, but what the hell are you doing here? You can't act." But Lucy said, "I was not going to just sit there and take it, so yes, I stood up for myself and I don't regret it, because no matter how low on the totem pole you may be or wherever you came from, there is no need to condescend or to put other people down, and I would not stand down, and nor should I have." Then there's Tippi Hedren. Tippi Hedren became an actress after she was discovered by director Alfred Hitchcock while appearing on a television commercial in 1961. Now, she achieved great praise for her work in two of his films, The Birds and Marnie. With all this success though, Tippi revealed that Hitchcock made offensive demands on her. She said, "He stared at me and simply said, as if it was the most natural thing in the world, that from this time on, he expected me to make myself sexually available and accessible to him however and whenever and wherever he wanted." Now, Hitchcock's demands led to a horrible fight, according to her. She then told him Marnie would be their last film together, and later recalled how Hitchcock told her he would destroy her career. He said, "I'll ruin your career," and he did ruin my career. He kept me under contract and paid me to do nothing for close to 2 years. Now, Tippi said this essentially ruined her career as a leading lady, and it's such a shame. Moving on to Kim Cattrall. Sex and the City stars Kim Cattrall and Sarah Jessica Parker have been engaged in a long-simmering feud. On Piers Morgan's Life Stories in 2017, Kim said that Sarah could have been nicer about her refusal to take part in the third Sex and the City movie. She also added that the 4 stars of the show were never friends. Cattrall went further in February 2018 following the death of her brother Chris. After Parker wrote a comment of condolence on Cattrall's Instagram, Cattrall posted a photo of a message that read, "I don't need your love or support at this tragic time at Sarah Jessica Parker. Kim then accused Sarah of exploiting our tragedy to restore her nice girl persona, adding, "Your continuous reaching out is a painful reminder of how cruel you really were then and now." Now, Sarah has consistently denied that she has ever fallen out with Kim. Then there's the entire Glee cast. Now, it appears that the entire Glee cast had an issue with Lea Michele. Samantha War spoke up on her experiences with Lea when Lea spoke out in support of Black Lives Matter. "Remember when you made my first television gig a living hell? Cause I'll never forget it," Samantha tweeted at Lea in all caps. "I believe you told everyone that if you had the opportunity, you would shh in my wig," amongst other traumatic microaggressions that made me question a career in Hollywood. Now, Lea's close co-worker Naya Riviera also spoke about her negative experiences with her in her memoir. She said the actress kept threatening to call SAG about the unsafe working conditions, and she also said in regards to Lea, "So I guess you can throw a fit, lock yourself in your trailer, stall production, yet still allegedly find time to leak stories to the press." Next up is Freddie Prinze Jr. In 2010, Freddie Prinze Jr. joined Kiefer Sutherland's action series 24, and when he gave an interview about his time on the show a few years later, he didn't have anything positive to say about the star. Freddie said that Kiefer was unprofessional and that he hated every moment of working with him. It turns out that Kiefer was more than a little unprofessional while filming their scenes together. Freddie says, "That's not me talking trash, I'd say it to his face. I think everyone that works with him has said that. I just wanted to quit the business after that, so I sort of stopped." Freddie continued on in his interview. Yikes. Now imagine being so horrible on set that your co-star quit their profession. That is just so messed up. And finally we have Steven Seagal. Steven Seagal is notoriously difficult to work with, so I feel like if you still hire him, that's on you. Now, after hosting Saturday Night Live in 1991, Steven was banned from the show by producer Lorne Michaels because he was difficult to work with. While they never got too specific, the crew admitted that they did not like working with the martial artist and even found him annoying. Now, the show's cast and crew were on edge and almost ran an entire show without a host. Then fellow actor John Leguizamo opened up about working with Steven. He said, "I'm playing this master sergeant and we come in for rehearsals and he says I'm in command, everything I say is law, and I was like ha ha ha. I started cracking up because he sounded stupid. He came up and taekwondo'd me against the brick and hit me with his elbow. He's 6'5" and he caught me off guard and knocked all the air out of me, and I was like, why? Why'd he slam me against the wall? We were rehearsing." Now, in addition to getting physical on set, Steven is also known for getting physical off set as well.
Number 1, we have Jared Leto. Leto is an actor known to be method. And if you don't know what method acting means, it is a technique or type of acting in which an actor aspires to encourage sincere and emotionally expressive performances by fully inhabiting the role of the character. So basically, aka never breaking character on or off set. Jared Leto stayed completely in character as the Joker and sent his castmates disturbing gifts, and his co-stars had some things to say about it. After he sent Viola Davis a box of bullets, she almost had her pepper spray out. She told E! News, "It was a little worrisome, it made you a little bit nervous, and I'm pretty tough. You know, I got into a few fights when I was growing up, but it scared me a little bit." But it doesn't stop there. Viola also said Jared introduced himself to the cast by sending them a dead pig and sent Margot Robbie, who is playing Harley Quinn, a black rat in a box in which Margot kept as a pet. Next on the list we have Jennifer Aniston. Known as the good girl in Hollywood, Jennifer Aniston seems like she would not hurt a fly. Well, that all changed when Jay Moore, her co-star in 1997's Picture Perfect, said that his most awkward interaction with a female co-star was, quote, being on the set of a movie where the leading woman was unhappy with his presence and made it clear from day one. Although he never named any names, this was the only movie that fit the description. Maybe he's too scared Aniston's legal team will get involved if he speaks up. He also said, "I hadn't done many movies, and even though they screen tested some pretty famous guys, I somehow sneaked into the leading role." The actress said, "No way, you've got to be kidding me," loudly between takes to other actors on set. "I would literally go to my mom's house and cry. Next up, we have Bill Murray. Bill has been in the news for a while now for accusations made against him, but this particular accusation is from the year 2000, while Bill was filming Charlie's Angels. His co-star Lucy Liu had some negative things to say about him, telling media outlets that Bill hurled insults at her while rehearsing a scene. While Liu didn't specify what Murray said to her during rehearsal, she confirmed reports that the actor started, quote, hurling insults at me after learning of new scene rewrites. In the moment, the actress had difficulty processing what was happening. I was like, wow, he seems like he's looking straight at me. I couldn't believe that his comments could be towards me, because what do I have to do with anything majorly important at the time? I say, I'm sorry, are you talking to me? And clearly he was, because then it started to become a one-on-one communication. From Liu's perspective, some of the language Murray used was, quote, inexcusable and unacceptable. She therefore decided to speak up in spite of the fact that she was one of the lesser known actors on set. I stood up for myself, and I do not regret it, she said, because no matter how low on the totem pole you may be, or wherever you came from, there's no need to condescend or to put other people down. Next up, we have Miss Jennifer Lopez. Jane Fonda called out her monster-in-law co-star Jennifer Lopez for injuring her on set. On the Drew Barrymore show, she said, the thing that comes to mind right away is that we have a slapping scene. I slap her, she slaps me. Jennifer, as per Jennifer, she had this enormous diamond ring. When she slapped me, it cut open across my eyebrow. And you know, she's never apologized, she concluded. But Jane Fonda isn't the only one who has some things to say about J-Lo. Last year, a viral TikTok trend where people told their J-Lo horror stories went viral, and some of the stories are crazy. One user said, I served at a restaurant where J-Lo and Ben Affleck were eating. At the end of the meal, Ben put a $100 bill down as a tip for the waitress. As Jennifer was just about to leave, she grabbed the $100 bill and replaced it with $5. Yikes. Next up, we have Alyssa Milano. Alyssa Milano has been exposed by her charmed co-star Rose McGowan for being toxic on set. During a Twitter spat with her former charmed co-star, she tweeted, "You threw a fit in front of the crew, yelling, 'They don't pay me enough to do this.' Appalling behavior on the daily. I cried every time we got renewed because you made that set toxic AF." She also shared an interview clip where she told Nightline, "I don't like Alyssa because I think she's a lie." Responding in a statement to E! News, Alyssa Milano said, hurt people, commenting any further does not align with my wellness plan. Next up, we have Gene Kelly. Gene is one of the most famous actors and dancers from the 1950s, and his co-star of Singing in the Rain had some things to say about him. In her 2013 memoir, Unsinkable, Debbie Reynolds wrote that her Singing in the Rain co-star / director Gene Kelly was a, quote, cruel taskmaster. She said, "He came to rehearsals and criticized everything I did and never gave me a word of encouragement." She also alleged that he made unwanted advances towards her during their first kiss scene, writing, "The camera closed in, Gene took me tightly in his arms and shoved his tongue down my throat. Ew, what was that?" I screeched. Breaking free of his grasp and spitting, I ran around frantic, yelling for some Coca-Cola to cleanse my mouth. It was the early 1950s and I was an innocent kid who had never been French kissed before. I was stunned that this 39-year-old man would do this to me. Gene reportedly once said, "I wasn't very nice to Debbie. I'm surprised she still speaks to me." Next up, we have Lea Michele. The Glee star has been in the news lately for her apparent horrible behavior on set and off set. Replying to a tweet Lea Michele made about the Black Lives Matter movement, Glee co-star Samantha Marie Ware wrote, "Remember when you made my first television gig a living hell? 'Cause I'll never forget. I believe you told everybody that if you had the opportunity, you would poo in my wig." Amongst other traumatic microaggressions that made me question a career in Hollywood. Another co-star, Heather Morris, also had some things to say on Twitter. Was she unpleasant to work with? Very much so. For Lea to treat others with the disrespect that she did for as long as she did, I believe she should be called out. And finally, Dabbier Snell, who appeared on Glee in 2014, also recounted rude behavior from Lea Michele on set. He tweeted, "Girl, you wouldn't let me sit at the table with the other cast members because I didn't belong there. F you, Leah," in all caps. Our next celebrity is Jamie Lynn Spears. Britney's little sister seems to have caused some trouble on the set of Nickelodeon's Zoe 101. Alexa Nicholas opened up in 2019 about Jamie Lynn Spears and other Zoe 101 cast members allegedly bullying her on the set of the teen show. Nicholas was notably written off the show after season 2. In addition to claims of bullying tactics like exclusion and mocking, Nicholas also revealed in 2022 that she was once lured into a room with Jamie Lynn and her sister Britney Spears under false pretenses, deliberately separated from her mother. Britney Spears reportedly screamed at Nicholas and threatened her future in Hollywood. Nicholas revealed that Britney has apologized since and called her an amazing person, noting the stress 8 months pregnant Britney was under at the time and saying that she felt Britney had been manipulated by her sister Jamie Lynn. After Nicholas's interview, Britney publicly apologized, writing on Twitter that Jamie Lynn had told her she was being bullied and that my sister was literally like my daughter growing up, so I apologize for my ignorance for yelling at you when I obviously had no idea what was really going on. Kiefer Sutherland is the next celebrity on our list, and he has some serious allegations made against him. Let's get into it. After joining the show 24, Freddie Prinze Jr. was vocal about how much he disliked the show's lead actor, and really, his entire time on the program. "I did 24 and it was terrible. I hated every moment of it," he told ABC News. Kiefer was the most unprofessional dude in the entire world. "That's not me talking trash, I'd say it to his face. I think everybody that's worked with him has said that." Prinze also took a break from acting after his stint on 24, saying that the experience made him want to, quote, "quit the business." Rebel Wilson recently opened up about, quote, "awful and disgusting advances from a male co-star," though she didn't name who. "He called me into a room and pulled down his pants," she revealed, saying the co-star then asked her to perform a very vulnerable act. Afraid of retaliation and wanting to be professional, Wilson stayed on the project, though she said, "Definitely amongst industry circles, I made sure people knew what happened." She had also separately revealed that a male co-star in a position of power asked me to go into a room with him, all whilst his male friends tried to film the incident on their iPhones and laughed. "I repeatedly said no and eventually got out of the room."
Number 10. Nicki Minaj and Mariah Carey. The feud between these two was swift and difficult to hide. In 2012, Mariah and Nicki were co-judges on the singing competition American Idol, and despite functioning on somewhat the same page, things actually went sour very fast. Over a span of just a few short weeks, American Idol became a desolate wasteland of insults, swear words, and a ton of threats. Yeah, things got pretty heated. According to people that worked on set of the show, Mariah was the one making fun of Nicki, saying mean little comments every time they sat next to each other. She was always saying that Nicki couldn't sing and felt that she should not be judging others on their ability. Some other people claim the opposite is the case, but hey, who really knows? I wasn't on the set. What we do know is that things got so heated that Nicki stormed off set one day, threatening to physically harm Mariah as she did. In 2013, they must have had enough of each other as they both decided to quit the show and go their separate ways. Number 9. Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey. So let's get geeky for a second and talk about the movie Batman Forever. This movie was a failure from the moment the studio decided to fight Tim Burton on his vision. They recasted Michael Keaton, shifted the dark undertone, and turned the whole thing into a big live-action cartoon. Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones played the villains of the piece, the Riddler and Two-Face respectively. For Tommy, the set was nothing but a pain in the neck. According to Tommy and several of the people on set, himself and Jim would argue with each other constantly. He just hated Jim's improv, his goofy attitude, and his overall energetic performance. Now, he literally called Jim a buffoon following the film's release. Despite working very well together on screen, off screen, they were counting down the hours until production wrapped. Number 8. Freddie Prinze Jr. and Kiefer Sutherland. Kiefer is a man known for his roles in movies like Lost Boys or Stand By Me, and he's built himself a nice little nest egg. For a long time he was starring in crime drama 24. A lot of celebrities made small cameos and recurring roles on that show, but in 2010, Scooby-Doo alumni Freddie Prinze Jr., and yes, I know he's been in other stuff, but that's how I know him, was casted as Cole Ortiz. Despite the massive success of the show, the job actually left him scarred and admitting that he hated every second of it. According to Freddie, Kiefer is just an unprofessional dude that he hated working with. Continuing to say that he wasn't talking trash, this was just something that he would happily say to Kiefer's face. Apparently, a ton of his co-stars agreed that he makes filming a living nightmare. Following the end of his character's time on the show, he did slow down in acting, now limiting himself to voiceover and cameo roles, and the odd thing was that while there was some backing up to Freddie's story, there were a lot of people defending Sutherland, claiming the exact opposite things had happened to them. Some say that he's the most professional man in the world, and some say that he is someone you gotta watch out for, so I don't know, let's get some hashtags going. Hashtag Kiefer good, bad, see which one wins. Number 7. Chevy Chase and Donald Glover. Chevy Chase became a popular man after being involved with National Lampoon and Saturday Night Live way back in the day, but he returned to the mainstream when he starred as Pierce Hawthorne in Community. I genuinely love this show, and Chevy, it got better when he left. It would appear that his Community co-stars would agree with that statement. Around the middle of the show, Chevy started to complain about his co-stars, especially Donald Glover. It became apparent that he was just angry with him and was eventually fired for using racial slurs against him. According to Donald himself, aka Troy Barnes, Chevy would often make inappropriate jokes either aimed right at him or just as a general way to disrupt a scene. Joel McHale, who played Jeff Winger, told people that before he was fired, Chevy was complaining about his character's position on the show and how he was being portrayed. Well, the entire cast reminded him that there wasn't anything that actually was keeping him there, which might have been part of what set him off. His character was written out of the show in humiliating fashion, and I'm not gonna spoil it for you. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. He feeds some geese for just a bit too long, if you know what I mean. Number 6. Wesley Snipes and Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds is known for a lot of things. One of his most iconic roles as an actor is of course the Merc with the Mouth, Deadpool himself. However, in 2008, Ryan was a part of a very different Marvel movie. As some might know, the original Marvel movie that started this whole live action comics trend was Blade, starring Wesley Snipes as the titular vampire hunter. By the time the third film of that franchise rolled around, Wesley Snipes was actually just done with working on set. He hated the way the franchise was turning out, and all of his creative suggestions were very quickly shut down. His main problem was the fact that Blade Trinity was written as a straight up comedy movie when the previous entries were more dark and action packed, filled with gore and some pretty stellar fight sequences. So when Van Wilder was casted to be his co-star, he kinda gave up. He famously refused to film several scenes unless he was allowed to keep his shades on. Apparently he was just micro-napping during takes because he just didn't care anymore. Ryan Reynolds played a big part in his difficulty enjoying the film. Apparently Reynolds just made it his mission to make Wesley snap. He'd constantly do bits, push things too far, make stuff up on the set. At the end of the day, Blade Trinity ended up burying the franchise, and it was one of the most chaotic and toxic film sets probably ever. Number 5. Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron. Mad Max Fury Road is a wonderful film in cinema history. It featured like no CGI despite having some incredible visuals, and it also had some pretty stellar performances from its cast, including Nicholas Hoult, Charlize Theron, and Tom Hardy. Charlize and Tom played the main characters, Furiosa and Max. While their on-screen characters end up working together in the end, on set it was just very different. Tom had a bit of a bad habit for showing up late, basically all the time. Meanwhile, Charlize was a brand new mother who would be on time every day while her kids were forced to be taken care of by someone else. In a book called Red, Sweat and Chrome, The Wild and True Story of Mad Max, writer Kyle Buchanan shared an instance on set between Charlize and Tom. Everyone was on set, 8 a.m., ready to go, except for Tom. But to make a point, Charlize took her place and stayed there for 3 hours until Tom finally showed up. She didn't move a muscle, and according to the crew, she was beyond furious. When Tom finally showed up, she asked him how he could be so disrespectful. They said that they should fine the See You Next Tuesday $100,000 for every minute that he held up the crew. She didn't say see you next Tuesday, but the word she did say set Tom off. He rushed up to her and pulled out the whole "what did you just say to me" thing, because he's a big tough guy and he can't hear well. Overall, Charlize felt pretty threatened by Tom and had to have an assistant follow her around on set as a buffer between the two, and I found out that following the film they actually apologized, mended things up, and Tom realized that he was a bit intense on set, which is to say the least. Number 4, The Rock and Vin Diesel. Dwayne and Vin first met on the set of the 5th Fast and Furious movie. This was Vin Diesel's 5th movie while it was Dwayne's first, not just in a franchise, but in the acting world in general. At first, everything was okay with these guys on set. Fast 5 was pretty good, it made a lot of money, and they asked Dwayne to come back for 2 more movies. However, something changed. In 2016, in a now deleted post, he called out one of his fellow Fast 7 co-stars a candy. He actually said a word that rhymes with grass. Rumors started to fly that he was more than likely referencing Vin Diesel. Rumors that were proven true only a week after that post was made. Following the premiere of Fate of the Furious, Johnson posted to Instagram thanking all of his fellow cast and crew, but he left Vin Diesel out of that thank you. It was later confirmed by Fast and Furious co-star Michelle Rodriguez that there was a massive amount of tension on the set of the film. They were buddies at first, but as time went on and the franchise evolved, so did their egos. They fought constantly over who should receive more screen time, who the real lead of the franchise was, all that fun toxic masculinity. To keep both actors happy, Johnson was given a spin-off in which he co-starred with Jason Statham, and Vin Diesel was left right where he belongs with his family, probably making Fast 21 right now. Number 3, Jennifer Grey and Patrick Swayze. Jen and Patrick have starred in a few movies together, most of which were made in the 1980s and are still talked about to this day. Before starring together in the classic 1987 flick Dirty Dancing, they were featured in the film Red Dawn. According to Jennifer, the set was a nightmare for her. While their characters were okay on screen, off screen, Pat was apparently pulling pranks on crew and cast left and right. She said that he was a very alpha individual and acted a lot like a socially unaware jock. She told the director that the things that he was doing just made her uncomfortable and it was just a bit too much. Following Red Dawn, they parted ways for a while but got back together for Dirty Dancing, something that actually almost didn't happen. Jennifer screen tested with Patrick and knew that there was something there, but that she just wasn't into the idea of working with this guy one-on-one. During the audition process, Patrick took Jennifer aside and with tears in his eyes, he apologized for his actions, telling her that this film could only work if they were on the same page. According to Jennifer, the moment following their interaction was when he lifted her up into the air for the first time, and that was it. Nobody else could have been in this movie. There is actually a sequel to the original film in the works, but no current release date is public. Number 2, Rachel McAdams and Ryan Gosling. The Notebook is of course considered to be one of the best romantic movies ever made. Oddly enough, this on-screen couple actually did not get along at all while they were filming. They'd constantly fight on set and had completely different ideas on how most of the scenes should play out. One day in particular was pretty exciting for anyone not involved. Ryan called over the director and demanded that Rachel be replaced by another actress because the way she was reading her lines just didn't work for him. In front of 150 crew members, he was like, "Rachel isn't giving me anything, get her out of here!" The two would constantly yell on set, and that was probably one of the worst days. Their toxic on-set feud somehow morphed into a relationship. They were together for like 2 years, and anyone who worked on the set blames them for constant schedule setbacks and just making an overall bad work environment. And at number 1, Janet Hubert and Will Smith. Will Smith got his big break in the acting world thanks to the success of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, a show that was fantastic and followed Will as the titular prince living with his family in Bel-Air, surrounded by cousins, uncles, and Aunt Viv. In season 1, Aunt Viv was played by a woman named Janet Hubert Witten, but as a lot of people know, she was recasted because an on-set feud with Will just went way too far. According to Will, Janet just saw him as a bad guy, she had been in the business for years when Will suddenly popped into her life. She held a lot of jealousy towards him because he just kind of walked into town and got a job, which is what happens when you're good at acting, I guess. She was trying to convince the producers of the show to give her character more screen time and let her breathe, but of course they said no because it's not the Aunt Viv show. She fought back hard, but it was ultimately decided that she would be asked to sit out for the rest of the series, and she got replaced by Daphne Maxwell Reid, who is the legendary Aunt Viv that we all know and love. Number 10, Leah Remini. Morning talk shows seem to have a new host popping in and out every season. Shows like The View and The Talk are known for having a revolving door policy when it comes to their hosts. For one reason or another, many hosts have been fired over the years, from on-screen altercations to backstage drama. For King of Queens alumni Leah Remini, she was fired due to an issue stemming from fellow host Sharon Osbourne. Remini premiered in season 1 of the show, demonstrating blunt honesty and a certain laid-back style of conversation. According to Leah, Sharon Osbourne did not like that at all. Not only was Leah fired after the first season, but her fellow co-host Holly Robinson Pete was also let go for little to no reason. However, Remini posted on her Twitter page calling Sharon out for having too much power on the show, alleging that she knew Sharon had a hand in herself and Holly being let go from the program. Leah claimed that herself and Holly were just too street for Sharon's liking. They weren't funny enough or awkward enough to make good TV. Sharon has denied those allegations to this day, and no one has spoken to each other in person since the firing. Number 9. Shanine Doherty. Unfortunately for Shanine, she gained quite the reputation in Hollywood for being fired due to an issue with her co-star. She may or may not be making another appearance on this list. I guess you'll just have to stick around and find out. For the first entry though, we're looking back to a very popular series, teen drama 90210. The series following the lives of the Walsh family as they moved from Minneapolis to Beverly Hills. Doherty played the character Brenda Walsh, with her character eventually befriending several students at Beverly Hills High, including Donna Martin, played by Tori Spelling. The series was a hit after its initial season, however, with increased popularity came massive ego boosts. Doherty and Spelling started clashing on set all of the time, adding additional drama to the production team that they really did not need. Considering Tori's father, Aaron Spelling, was the producer on the show, it's pretty simple to piece together what happened. Doherty claims that she was officially let go for having a haircut that messed up the continuity of the show, but a wig could have fixed that, so you better believe Tori Spelling told her papa to boot her from the series. Number 8. Lindsay Lohan. In the early 2000s, Lindsay Lohan faced a ton of public scandals, but one that's not talked about often enough actually took place behind the scenes of a TV show called Ugly Betty. Lohan was a guest star on the show in the 3rd season, playing Kimmy Keegan. Kimmy was supposed to stick around for 6 total episodes, but eventually that number was shrunken down to 4, the reason being that her co-star and the lead of the show, America Ferrera, just did not get along with Lindsay on set. According to America, and actually quite a few of the Ugly Betty crew, Lindsay would show up with an entourage of people and usually under the influence of herbs and spices, and the production crew had to literally repaint her dressing room when she left because it was so messed up. One crew member alleged that she would cut images of her own face out of magazines and tabloid articles like she were making a collage or something. That sounds a little made up, but not out of the realm of possibility. America claims that one scene took over 30 takes to get right because they just kept flubbing their lines. Lindsay's team of buddies have been adamant that America had too much power and was the sole reason that she was asked to leave the show. Unfortunately, if you do bad things and enough people know about it, karma just kinda comes back around. Number 7. Selma Blair. It's funny that this entry involves Charlie Sheen getting a woman fired when he himself has been fired from several projects and for a few reasons. After being fired from 2.5 Men, Sheen returned to the acting world, headlining his own show called Anger Management. It premiered in 2012 with the cast featuring Hellboy alumni Selma Blair, playing his colleague and friend with benefits on the show. However, Sheen's terrible behavior continued to haunt him from his 2.5 Men days. Blair was very vocal on her problems with Charlie, especially his messy work ethic. Charlie heard about this and he was having none of it. He threatened to quit the show if Blair was going to remain a part of the cast. Sheen got his way and Blair was let go after starring in just 54 episodes. The show didn't last long though. Who would have guessed that a messy actor being the lead was a bad idea? The show was ultimately canceled in 2014. Number 6. Aaron Hayes. The King of Queens was arguably the peak of Kevin James and his comedy. For 9 seasons, people tuned in to see Kevin and his on-screen wife, Leah Remini, deliver entertaining banter and genuinely memorable moments as their chemistry together was electric. Kevin made another move into the world of sitcoms in 2016 when the show Kevin Can't Wait premiered. Another family-style sitcom, only this time Kevin was paired with actress Aaron Hayes. While she was not a bad actor in the slightest, it was a special guest appearance from Leah Ramini that sealed her fate. She appeared in the season 1 finale, and their chemistry was still so strong that it was announced that Hayes' character would be written off the show, and literally had her character tragically pass away. At the same time, Ramini was announced as a new series regular beginning in season 2. Though the show cited that firing Aaron was purely a creative choice and in no way was reflected in her abilities as a performer, the firing then sudden hiring of his co-star from the past is just a little bit of a coincidence. Just a little bit. Aaron has never given a reason to believe that the studio was lying and has continued to have a pretty solid career, but luckily for her, season 2 tanked and the show was ultimately cancelled in 2018. Number 5. Bruce Willis. Before Bruce quit the acting business for good, he was part of some of the best action films of all time. The Try Hard series, The Fifth Element, and of course the first 2 Expendables movies. The Expendables is a stellar action series that sees Hollywood's most legendary leading men come together in one epic showdown. The first film was written and directed by Rocky himself, Sylvester Stallone, and he called in all of the favors. The cast included Jet Li, Jason Statham, Dolph Lundgren, and so many more, including Bruce Willis. Unfortunately, he was fired from the third film in the franchise following a dispute with Sylvester involving his contract. Before the truth broke, Sylvester tweeted that he had great news, Bruce Willis was out and Harrison Ford was in for Expendables 3. And a few minutes later, he followed it up by simply writing greedy and lazy, a sure formula for career failure. And it was pretty obvious that something went down behind the scenes, and it was rumored that Willis had asked for over $1 million per day to film the third movie. Despite their off-screen argument and Bruce's recasting, the two were able to reconnect and squash their beef for good. Number 4. Stacey Dash. While a ton of firing stories end with allegations, the situation between Lisa Ray McCoy and Stacey Dash is actually pretty straightforward. McCoy had Dash fired from their show. That's it. During the first season of the VH1 series Single Ladies, the two actresses clashed on basically everything, which led to McCoy taking action. She admitted to having a hand in getting her co-star fired before the start of the second season. In an interview with Vibe, she stated that in Hollywood she learned to be a boss. She had to say to Stacey, "Get your mother flippin' finger out of my face," which was the final breaking point. For the second season of the show, a replacement was brought in for Miss Dash, who went on to star in some other stuff. Number 3. Rose McGowan. So let's talk about the show Charmed for a second. It was a solid series that was on air for almost 10 years. The series followed 3 sisters that discover they are descendants of a line of female witches and are destined to fight against the forces of evil. It was a fun show, however, just because you play sisters on set doesn't mean that you're going to be close in real life. Rose McGowan and Alyssa Milano had a very public altercation that resulted in a little incident on set being shared with the entire world. Rose claimed that Alyssa threw a fit in front of the crew, yelling that they didn't pay her enough to do the things she was doing, and only she didn't say the thing she was doing, she said a swear word. She called Alyssa's behavior appalling and claimed that she cried every time the show would get renewed for another season because it just meant more time on a toxic set with Alyssa. Alyssa never shared her own comments on the situation, basically confirming what she was being accused of. Number 2. Bill Murray. Sony's big first move into the world of Charlie's Angels was actually fantastic. The first round of films starred Cameron Diaz, Drew Barrymore, and Lucy Liu as the titular angels. They were filled with action, a little bit of comedy, and just one of the strangest performances ever delivered from Crispin Glover. I mean, one of. That dude does a lot of weird stuff. One interesting addition to the cast was the inclusion of Ghostbusters alumni Bill Murray as Bosley, their boss. Apparently the set was anything but a comedy though after Bill found out that a scene was rewritten while he was away. In an interview with the news outlet Deadline, Lucy Liu spoke up about her time on set and the situation with Bill. Apparently Bill was away for a family event when a scene needed to be refilmed. Instead of using a stand-in, it was decided that the scene could be filmed without Murray's character even being involved, so it went on without him. When he returned to find that the changes were made while he was gone, he was furious and just shouted at everyone, including Lucy. At first, she wasn't sure why he was aiming his comments at her. She didn't do anything, she didn't write it, right? She asked if Bill was specifically speaking to to her, and apparently that just set him off. She decided to speak out on Bill's behavior on set, and he was ultimately written out of the sequel. Lucy is awesome for speaking her mind despite being a relatively unknown actor at the time, and so far she seems pretty glad that Bill's career is suffering for it, because Lucy was just the first of many celebrities to comment on his behavior, but we'll talk about that another time. Number 1, Janet Hubert. Will Smith got his big break in the acting world thanks to his time on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. The show followed him as the titular prince living with his wealthy family in Bel-Air, surrounded by cousins, uncles, and Aunt Viv. In season 1, Aunt Viv was played by a woman named Janet Hubert Witten, but as a lot of people know, in season 2 she was recasted after an on-set feud with Will went a bit too far. According to Will, Janet just viewed him as an antagonist in her life. She had been in a business for years when suddenly Will Smith popped in. She held this tinge of jealousy towards him because he just kinda came to town, got a job, and boom, that was it. Well, hey, that's what happens when you're good at your job, right? She was trying to convince the producers to give her character more time and allow her to breathe, but they said no, because it's not the Aunt Viv show, it's the Fresh Prince show. She fought back hard, but it was ultimately decided that she was gonna be asked to sit out of the rest of the series and be replaced by Daphne Maxwell Reid, who we all know and love as the real Aunt Viv. Number 10, Michael Keaton. Growing up, Michael Keaton was my Batman. The first 2 Tim Burton directed Batman movies are legendary, and I'm never going to look at Danny DeVito and not see the Penguin. Okay, it's just not gonna happen. One thing I actually never knew though was that Michael was once married to his Batman Returns co-star, Michelle Pfeiffer. In fact, Michael actually tried to get Michelle fired from the project after learning that she had been casted as not only a villain, but as his love interest as well. While the split before production was apparently amicable, it was still an uncomfortable situation for Michael to be in romantic scenes with someone that he had, well, already been romantic with off screen. At the time, Michael was also trying to get back with an ex-girlfriend and felt that Michelle's presence might ruin his chances. Well, as we all know, he was unsuccessful in getting her fired, the project went great, and the movie was great. So the only bad thing that ever happened was DC telling Tim Burton that his Batman 3 ideas were stupid. Hey man, Robin Williams would have made an excellent Riddler, you jerks. Number 9, John Stamos. John Stamos is not just a fun name to say, but is the man to blame for Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen being absent from the Full House revival, Fuller House. A lot of fans of the original series were well aware of why the Olsen twins never returned, but for those of you who don't know, John actually tried to get them fired from the original series when they were still young. And by young, I mean before they were even a full year old. From the very beginning of the sitcom, Stamos complained that Mary-Kate and Ashley were very difficult children to deal with. Apparently, if one wasn't crying and screaming, then the other one was. Oh no, a baby screaming and crying uncontrollably. Now that is a unique situation. His dislike for the Olsens forced the producers to bring in a new set of twins, and these are John's real complaints that prevented those twins from taking over permanently. Number 1, they had red hair. Number 2, in his words, they were unattractive babies, and he knew that he made a mistake. That is an awful thing to say about anyone at any age. After realizing that, the Olsens were just kids and that all the other ones were just too ugly to be on TV, that the Olsen twins would be brought back. What's funny is that the studio eventually wanted to fire Ashley Olsen only and keep Mary-Kate, but John actually stepped in and blocked that call. It seems that over the years that he turned into something like an uncle for the twins. For any Mary-Kate and Ashley fans who are just curious as to where they are, they took a break from acting permanently and have been making waves in the fashion industry. Pretty neat. Number 8, Tom Hanks. Who would have guessed the guy that is basically America's dad would be the cause of a man being fired from one of his film sets? Turner and Hooch was a wonderful buddy cop movie starring a young Tom Hanks and this big beautiful doggo named Beasley. When the film first started its production, Henry Winkler, aka the Fonz, aka Barry Zuckerkorn, was the director. As the years have gone by, Henry has always said the same thing about the project. He got along much better with Beasley than he did with Mr. Hanks. The set was plagued with creative differences between the men who would argue constantly on set. Henry's directing style just clashed with Tom's performance style time and time again. After only 13 days on set, there was an altercation between Tom and Henry that left Henry out of work, and Roger Spottiswoode stepped in to take his place. Number 7, Alec Baldwin. In 2013, Alec Baldwin was attached to star in a Broadway production of the show Orphans alongside Transformers alumni Shia Shia LaBeouf. Now, from day one of rehearsals, Shia and Baldwin were at each other's throats. Shia's problem was that Alec was never off script. This was something that he considered to be very unprofessional. Shia has since claimed that he was so nervous about the show that he made sure to memorize every single line he had before setting foot on stage on day one. His methods were not reciprocated by Alec, who just kind of showed up with a coffee in one hand and the script in the other one, planning to rehearse in the moment. Well, Shia was furious and he apparently yelled at Alec to learn his lines right then, right there. He said, "Whoa, he's a lead, what's the deal? Why aren't you better at this?" Well, after a couple of weeks and one particularly rough day where Shia blew up at Alec in front of a ton of cast and crew, Alec took 5 and he had a meeting with the producers. He said that if Shia wasn't let go, that he was going to quit the project. Producers caved and Shia was canned. In the tabloid, they claimed creative differences, but Shia later shared his side, clearly upset with being dropped as if he meant nothing to the show. Number 6. Seinfeld cast. Now, for this entry, there is no one cast member that could be singled out as the individual who tried to get Heidi Swedberg, aka Susan, fired from the series. In the season 7 finale of Seinfeld, spoiler alert, Jason Alexander's character George Costanza is delivered the news that his wife Susan has suddenly passed away. George is thrilled as he's been wanting to leave Susan for a while now, but it turns out off screen, Jason was just as excited. So were Jerry Seinfeld, Michael Richards, and Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who made up the other 3 main cast members. According to Jason, he found it difficult to play off of Susan, claiming that there just wasn't a lot of chemistry between them. And as I said, this was a feeling that was shared with the entire cast. Julia Louis-Dreyfus said that it was impossible to have fun with her and her character, and that the producers were planning to write her off at some point in the near future. Well, the gripes of the cast were heard, and her character passes away from licking the glue on cheap wedding invitation envelopes that George insisted they purchase. It is very funny and it's a great way to get a character written off of a show, but it's just unfortunate for Heidi that the entire cast was like, she's not a vibe. Number 5. Jason Momoa. It's no secret that filming Aquaman and its sequel was a bit of a sensitive task. For starters, Amber Heard not only played Jason's love interest in the film, but she was also dealing with the Johnny Depp defamation trial, so a decision had to be made if she was going to continue being involved with DC or if they would just recast her entirely. Well, it turns out that that conundrum was not because of the trial, but it was actually just because of her terrible chemistry with Jason Momoa. Amber Heard has always felt jammed into the DC universe, but we could go on about that forever. Ultimately, the studio never went forward with firing Amber, and it was all thanks to the CEO of Tesla and her former lover, Elon Musk. Back in 2019, Elon had one of his litigators send this scorched earth letter to Warner Brothers, basically threatening to tear the house down if Amber was left out of the sequel. Warner Brothers caved and moved forward. Imagine being so geeky and so rich that you could tell an entire studio what to do for you. You would make millions of movies just for yourself. Despite keeping her job, Amber has continued to hurl allegations against her co-star Jason Momoa to this day, claiming that he was dressing like Johnny Depp on purpose on set to mess with her. But as I've mentioned in previous news breakdowns on that topic, Jason Momoa always looks like Johnny Depp. It's just what some people in Hollywood look like. Number 4. Sylvester Stallone. Richard Gere is one of those actors that doesn't really act. Sometimes people just get hired for films because they have the face for it or the style. For Richard, he did not have enough class and moxie to keep a handle on his role in the film Lords of the Flatbush. He was casted to star alongside Rocky himself, Sylvester Stallone, and according to Sly, these two did not get along. Their beef was strong and long-lasting through the entire production until it finally came to a head when one day Richard was just a little bit too into one scene and grabbed Sylvester aggressively by the collar. When Sly told him to lay off, he laid in instead. Now that scene was being filmed on Coney Island, so when the actors took a minute to take a break, they tried to, break each other. Sly was eating a hot dog alone in his car. Sounds very peaceful, but suddenly Richard stormed in to join him with like half of a chicken dripping in mustard apparently. Despite Sly's warning about mustard, like this whole thing started because of mustard. It dripped all over his pants, and in true Rocky fashion, he elbowed Richard in the face and threw him out of the car. The altercation resulted in Richard being fired from the project. Oh no, they had to decide between Richard Gere and Sylvester Stallone. I wonder how quick that meeting was. Number 3. Ryan Gosling. The Notebook is considered to be one of the greatest romantic movies ever made. made. Oddly enough though, the on-screen couple never got along during the shoot. They would fight with each other on set all the time and seemed to have completely opposite ideas on how basically everything should play out. One day in particular was pretty exciting for anyone who wasn't involved. Ryan called over the director and demanded that Rachel be replaced by another actress to read her lines with him. In front of 150 crew members, he claimed that Rachel just wasn't giving him anything to work with and they would just constantly yell at each other between takes. Eventually, Ryan asked the director privately if it might be possible to restart the project with a new leading lady, and needless to say, he was laughed out of the room. As time went on, they finished the project and the two actually dated for almost 2 years. The Notebook is now a classic, and Ryan Gosling is just Ken. Number 2, America Ferrera. In the early 2000s, Lindsay Lohan faced a ton of public scandals, but one that's not talked about often enough actually took place behind the scenes of a little show called Ugly Betty. Lohan was a guest star on the show in the 3rd season, playing Kimmy Keegan. Now, Kimmy was supposed to stick around for 6 total episodes, but that number was actually shrunken down to 4. The reason being was that her co-star and the lead of the show, America Ferrera, did not get along with Lindsay Lohan. According to America and several of the Ugly Betty crew, Lindsay would show up with an entourage of people, usually under the influence of herbs and spices, and the production crew had to repaint her dressing room when she left because it was just so bad in there. One crew member alleged that she would cut images of her own face out of magazines and tabloid articles like she was making a collage or something creepy like that. America claims that one scene took over 30 takes to get right because she flubbed her lines over and over again. Lindsay's team of buddies have been adamant that America had just too much power and was the sole reason that she was asked to leave the show. Unfortunately, if you do bad things and enough people know about it, hey, karma comes around. And at number 1, Lucy Liu. Sony's first foray into the world of Charlie's Angels was a massive success when it released, starring Cameron Diaz, Drew Barrymore, and Lucy Liu as the main angels. The movie was filled with action, a little bit of comedy, and one of the strangest performances ever delivered from Crispin Glover. Seriously, that guy needs help. One interesting addition to the cast was the inclusion of Ghostbusters alumni Bill Murray as the man behind the mic, Mr. Bosley. Apparently, the set was anything but a comedy after Bill found out there was a scene rewritten without his knowledge. In an interview with the news outlet Deadline, Lucy Liu spoke up about her time on set and the situation surrounding herself and Bill. Apparently, Bill was away for a family event when a scene needed to be reshot for the movie, but instead of using a stand-in, they realized they could just film the scene without Bill Murray in it. So it went on and everything was fine. When he returned to find the change was made while he was gone, he was furious. He reportedly shouted at like half of the crew, including Lucy herself. At first, she wasn't sure why he was aiming so many of his comments directly at her. She didn't write the scene, she wasn't the director, but she asked if Bill was talking to her, which sent him into a full-blown meltdown. She decided to speak out on Bill's behavior on set, and he was ultimately written out of the sequel. Lucy is proud for speaking her mind, because at the time she was a relatively unknown actor and is glad that Bill's career seems to have suffered for it, because hey, Lucy was just the first of many people to comment on his behavior, but we'll leave that for another video.